Parker Schnabel had assumed the glacier was empty, just dead ice and nothing more, until the moment it started bleeding gold. One scoop of the bucket sliced into the surface, and a stream of bright flakes poured out as if the mountain had cracked open and spilled a secret it had been hiding for centuries. Sensors spiked instantly. The ground trembled beneath his boots, and every instrument screamed the same impossible message. Something massive was trapped under that frozen wall. Not a vein, not a streak, a vault. And the instant Parker realized the glacier was hiding gold so pure it shimmered without sunlight, everything shifted. The race began. Dig fast, or watch a once-in-a-century discovery get swallowed back into the ice forever. Before anything starts, hit that like button and subscribe, because what Parker Schnabel uncovers today should have been impossible. Yet it's happening right beneath his boots. The morning begins like any other. Air sharp enough to freeze a breath mid-sentence. Ground locked under a thick sheet of ancient frost. Parker stands over the first drill site, expecting exactly what the region always gives. Frozen gravel, lifeless permafrost, maybe a faint dusting of color if they're lucky. But the second the drill core surfaces, everything in camp changes. Instead of dull gray sediment, the core glimmers with bright microgold suspended in the ice. It looks wrong. It feels wrong. Gold shouldn't exist here. Definitely not in this concentration, not at this depth, and absolutely not trapped in solid ice. The drill operator waves Parker over again, voice tight. Something even stranger has shown up. The core is registering a thermal anomaly, a pocket of warmth buried under 40 feet of ice. Ice doesn't preserve warmth. Nature doesn't cheat like that. But the temperature spike is there in the data, unmistakable. Something underground is generating enough heat to keep a layer from freezing solid. Parker frowns. In the Klondike, only one thing traps localized warmth: moving water. And moving water means moving gold. He heads to the command trailer and drags out historical maps so old their edges crumble like paper ash. They were drawn before the glacier shifted, back when the ground was exposed and the ancient channels still visible. As Parker lines the map up with their current coordinates, a slow realization spreads across his face. 70 years ago, the glacier above them slid only a few hundred feet, but just far enough to bury an entire gold-bearing channel under a mountain of compacted ice. Nobody noticed. Nobody even knew it existed anymore. It simply disappeared beneath the glacier and stayed hidden. Until now. When the GPS scan finishes rendering, Mitch and Dylan lean in. There it is, a narrow chute diving sharply beneath the ice, perfectly aligned with the forgotten channel. It's tight, steep, dangerous, but it's real, untouched, unmined. A pocket of ancient gold sitting where no one ever thought to look. Parker doesn't hesitate. If that chute is still intact, it could hold millions in preserved pay. The next phase begins fast. Dylan fires up the seismic scanner, sending wave after wave through the frozen ground. The display flickers, stabilizes, and then shows something that makes no sense. In the center of the ice sheet sits a dark shape, a void, a hollow bowl-shaped chamber where only solid ice should exist. Chambers like this don't form naturally, not beneath this kind of glacier, unless something forced them open. Dylan switches to the density overlay. A heavy streak runs straight through the chamber. Thick, metallic, concentrated. The reading spikes so violently that the software hesitates, labels it an anomaly, and requests confirmation. Parker stares at the screen. He knows exactly what he's looking at. A trap. A natural gold kettle formed centuries ago by violent floods, then locked in place when the glacier rolled over it. Instead of scattering the gold, the ice preserved it, sealed it away from erosion, from movement, from human hands. The crew begins shaving down the first layers, and immediately the glacier pushes back. Deep cracks race across the surface, with hollow, echoing snaps that make everyone tense. These aren't surface fractures. They're loud, meaning there's empty space below. Enough space to carry sound. Enough space to collapse if they misjudge even one cut. Mitch kneels beside one of the widest cracks and slips a probe down. The tip suddenly drops, sinking into something gritty. loose gravel. Actual gravel beneath 40 feet of solid ice, exactly where the seismic data placed the void. The glacier isn't resting on ground. It's suspended over an empty chamber. Parker follows the longest fracture with his glove. The curve is too smooth, too deliberate, identical to the void shape on the seismic map. The data hadn't been exaggerating. This isn't a normal ice sheet. It's the weakened roof of a hidden chamber, thinned by shifting temperatures and stressed by their excavation. One mistake and the entire ceiling could collapse, sealing the gold forever. But Parker doesn't back down. Not after seeing the density spike. Not after pulling gold from the first drill core. They're standing over an untouched natural vault, preserved by ice for generations. He signals Mitch to shave off just a few more inches. Slow, steady, no sudden pressure. The excavator bucket scrapes forward, and the ground answers with a low, vibrating thud that doesn't belong to frozen earth. The crew falls silent. As the ice peels away, a smooth concave wall of deep blue curves inward, polished as if shaped deliberately over centuries. It's not jagged, not fractured. It looks like the inside of a massive bowl. Mitch taps it with a shovel handle, expecting a sharp ring, yet the wall gives a soft, heavy reply. The unmistakable sound of dense, waterlogged sediment lurking behind the ice. Parker steps closer, runs his glove along the bulging curve, and feels the faintest shift, as if the chamber beneath them is breathing. Dylan fires up the sonar. The scanner sweeps the chamber wall, redraws the shapes beneath the ice. Then a single dense mass lights up directly under Parker's boots. The software stutters, flashes a warning, and forces a rescan. Something enormous is sitting beneath the ice, and they've just woken it. The second sonar ping hits, and the reading only intensifies. The density cluster is so concentrated that the system flags it as an anomaly, its highest alert for something that doesn't match any natural pattern. Gold veins don't do this. Pay streaks don't hit densities like this. Whatever is down there isn't scattered or streaked. It's compressed. Packed so tightly, it's bending the entire chamber scan around it. Parker's jaw tightens. There's only one explanation he's ever heard of that fits this kind of signature: a gold kettle. A rare geological trap formed when ancient floods swirl gold into a single basin, bury it under sediment, and freeze it in place for generations. He's read about them, but he's never seen one. No miner he knows has. If that's what they're standing on, the value locked beneath the ice could be astronomical. The excavator inches forward, and Mitch dips the first bucket into the chamber floor. Instead of crunching into gravel or freezing against packed permafrost, the bucket sinks smoothly into soft, unstable material. When Mitch lifts it out, the load moves like slush. Water leaks through the sediment, turning the bucket's contents into a thick, muddy slurry. But the real shock comes as the runoff trickles out the side. Tiny bright flecks flash through the dirty meltwater, catching every bit of light. Gold. Not dull flakes, clean, vibrant pieces swirled straight out of the sediment. Gold drifting freely like glitter in the runoff. Tyler crouches down and rubs the slurry between his fingers. The flecks aren't worn or aged. They're sharp, bright, unusually pure. The kind of purity that only forms in stable, untouched environments. This pocket hasn't moved in decades, maybe centuries. Then the chamber floor erupts. A trapped layer of water, sealed beneath tons of ice, bursts upward through the fresh cut, blasting a muddy fountain into the excavator bucket. The surge carries more gold with it, flour gold, and microflakes so concentrated they stick together in the current. Even the surface layer is yielding gold at levels none of them have ever seen. They run a quick test on the slurry, expecting decent pay, maybe even strong numbers. But the results spike so high, Tyler has to check the meter twice. 10 times the normal yield, and Parker knows exactly what that means. If the top layer, nothing but slush and disturbed sediment, is running those numbers, the true pocket deeper down is going to be something entirely different. Something they've never mined before. As they clear more of the unstable surface, Tyler notices strange lines cutting across the chamber floor. Sharp, straight edges, too precise for natural settling. He drops into the cavity, brushing away the wet gravel until the shape becomes clear. A miniature fault line slicing diagonally through the basin. Faults act as natural traps for heavy minerals, but this one shows compaction so intense the gravel feels almost cemented together. He explains what he's seeing to Parker. Glacial pressure didn't just compress the ground, it forced everything inward, as if squeezing gold into a mold. Every shift of ice, every freeze-thaw cycle, every movement of the glacier funneled material into this one narrow pocket. Parker crouches beside the exposed fault, while Dylan maps it using resistivity. The scan returns an elongated oval shape beneath the chamber floor, a massive compressed formation stretching far deeper than they expected. It's not a vein, not a streak, not a patch. It's a vault. A sealed, pressure-packed gold vault, forged by ancient floods and welded shut by centuries of ice. The shape is too consistent, too uniform, too organized to be random. The resistivity spikes along its entire length, suggesting a solid, mineral-rich mass. If even half of that mass carries gold, the numbers become unreal. Parker doesn't speak at first. He just stares at the fault line, at the concave walls of deep blue ice, at the slurry pooling at his boots with flecks of gold shimmering inside it. Every detail, the cracks, the warmth in the water, the absurd density spikes, points to the same truth. They've punched straight into the roof of a natural treasure vault, shaped by ancient disasters and sealed away by time. And they're only scraping the surface. The excavator dips in again, cutting closer to the oval pocket buried beneath the slush. With every scoop, the chamber seems to tense. Air pressure tightens. The ice groans. Water pulses beneath their feet like something alive. The ground isn't behaving like Earth anymore. It's behaving like a shell under strain. A shell ready to split. Then it happens. A single thunderous crack rips across the chamber, sharp enough to vibrate through their chests. The roof drops only inches, but that's enough to send a sheet of frost cascading downward. Slabs of ancient ice slam into the floor, and when the cloud settles, it reveals something none of them expected. A layer of gravel so ancient its colors look muted and ghostly, yet streaked with thick veins of gold running straight through it. Not hints, not flecks, but full bands of visible gold threading through the gravel like frozen lightning. Proof that the entire chamber once acted as a colossal trap during catastrophic floods, stacking gold where it shouldn't exist at this elevation. Water drips from a thin seam in the ice dome above, each drop falling slowly, rhythmically, unnervingly calm in such a volatile space. Tyler looks up and follows the drip line. It's coming from a melt channel, an active one, cutting directly above the densest readings on their scans. That means heat is moving, ice is shifting. Pressure is changing faster than any of them would like. The meltwater is warming the vault, softening the chamber roof. And if the ceiling gives way, the collapse won't just bury the pocket, it'll bury the crew. Parker walks toward the edge of the cavity, boots crunching over freshly exposed, gold-streaked gravel. The decision is his and his alone. Pull out now, and the glacier reseals itself, locking this chamber for another 100 years. Push forward, and they chase the richest gold reading any of them have ever recorded, but risk the entire roof coming down on them. Parker pauses only long enough to read the melt line overhead, the speed of each drop, the subtle tremble of the ice, the way the whole chamber seems to hold its breath like a muscle under strain. Then he makes the call. Keep digging. Move fast, strip everything they can before the glacier closes in and erases the opportunity. The excavator creeps forward, cutting deeper into the basin exactly where the scans show the hidden pocket. On the third pass, the bucket slams to an abrupt stop with a harsh shudder. The entire machine jolts. The sound isn't right. Dull, heavy, metallic in a way no bedrock should ever sound. Mitch reverses and tries again. Same result, same dead stop. Whatever lies beneath the slush is large, solid, and anchored deep. They start clearing the sediment by hand until the shape begins to reveal itself. A boulder-sized mass entombed in a shell of cloudy ice. Parker kneels beside it, brushing frost away from the surface. Quartz. Thick, jagged veins of it streak through the stone like frozen lightning, and quartz like this is never random. It's the host rock that captures gold as mineral-rich fluids cool underground. Tyler taps it with a hammer and listens. The vibration is dense. Too dense. They trigger a controlled ice blast to fully expose the stone. Steam hisses as the ice melts back, and the chamber lights ignite the newly revealed surface. At first, there's only white quartz and dark fractures. Then the glow emerges, slender streaks of gold threading through the cracks like molten metal frozen mid-flow. These aren't tiny veins or dust. They're thick, undeniable ribbons of gold locked deep within the quartz. A chunk this size could only have been torn from an ancient gold source and hurled here by a flood forceful enough to toss boulders like toys. There's barely time to react before Parker orders the excavator deeper. If this much gold is trapped in a single boulder, then the real treasure is further below. The machine digs under the quartz and scoops out the sediment supporting it. Beneath the stone, a layer emerges so dark it appears almost black. It's packed so tightly, it resembles asphalt instead of gravel. Tyler drops into the pit and scoops a handful. It's shockingly heavy, much heavier than typical pay dirt. The black color comes from mineral compaction, the sort formed only when immense weight compresses material into a dense, uniform sheet. He runs a field test right there. The results don't spike, they explode. Higher gold content than they imagined possible. Higher than anything the Klondike typically reveals. This is the mother layer. The true kettle structure. A basin carved by ancient floods, filled with gold and heavy minerals, then sealed and compacted under centuries of glacial pressure until everything inside fused into a geological vault. Parker watches as the excavator traces the curve of the layer. The formation dips in a perfect bowl, just as the sonar showed. And the deeper they follow it, the more intense the minerals become. Iron oxide, magnetite, black sands so dense they cling together. All hallmarks of violent, high-energy floods capable of ripping entire hillsides apart. This chamber wasn't a lucky accident. It was the endpoint of a massive natural funnel. A place where countless cycles of ancient water dropped their heaviest material in one single spot. And now every bucket from the mother layer confirms it. Coarse gold rattles in the steel like gravel. Nuggets thick enough to clink as they fall. Load after load, spilling visible pieces of gold, as if the glacier has been guarding a treasure trove and is finally letting it go. The deeper they dig into the bowl, the richer it gets. A surreal, steady stream of ancient wealth pours out, each bucket heavier than the last. Parker watches the developing pattern. Bigger chunks, denser concentrations, more frequent finds, with only one thought in mind. If the resistivity scan was correct, the densest mass still lies beneath them. They're only grazing the upper rim of the treasure vault, but with every pass, the chamber becomes more unstable. The ice roof groans under its own weight. The meltwater drips faster. Cracks spider outward. The entire bowl feels like it's straining to keep itself intact. Despite that, the gold keeps coming in waves, almost daring them to push further. Everything points toward one final section. Deeper, denser, hiding a concentration no miner ever expects beneath a glacier. Then the ground answers. It doesn't burst or fracture. It sinks. Slowly, heavily, as though the earth is finally letting go of something it has held for centuries. The floor settles, and a hollow pocket opens beneath the mother layer. When light hits it, the crew freezes. The cavity isn't empty. It's filled with a sticky, glowing mass of pay dirt, so rich it seems alive. Frozen gravel clings together in clumps laced with gold, gleaming like embers deep inside the chamber. Visible nuggets sit wedged in the walls, large, unmistakable, locked in icy webs of ancient sediment. As water drips into the hollow, it washes away a thin layer and reveals even larger pieces beneath, fist-sized nuggets embedded in the darker sediment. Mitch leans in with a shovel and tests the edge. The tool sinks barely an inch before striking something solid. He digs with his fingers and pulls out a massive nugget, palm-sized, smooth, heavy beyond reason. Gold like that hasn't traveled far, which means they're standing at the true center of the kettle, the deepest point, the vault where the heaviest material settled and never moved again. Tyler crouches beside the opening, letting a thin stream of water wash away even more sediment. The exposed gravel gleams like a mosaic of metal based on sheer volume alone. The vault has opened, and they've reached the heart of it. The gold sitting in the open hollow is visible, raw, unprocessed, undeniable. Tyler mutters a rough estimate under his breath, and it's enough to make everyone's chest tighten. $80 to $110 million if the pocket continues to its predicted depth. And that's assuming it ends where the scans say it should. If the glacier compacted more material than they expected, the number could climb even higher. Nobody says it out loud, but they all feel it. They've just cracked open the richest natural gold pocket any of them have ever stood inside. Before they can absorb what that means, the glacier delivers a warning. A deep, grinding groan rolls across the chamber, a sound so low it rattles their bones, followed by a sharp, stuttering crack that spiderwebs across the dome overhead. Chunks of ice begin to fall. The melt channel widens. The entire roof shifts, the structural pillars of frozen earth warping under the changing pressure. Tyler glances up once, then tears his eyes away. Minutes, he says. Not hours. Not later. Minutes before the roof collapses. Parker doesn't pause. He orders an all-out extraction blitz. No breaks, no analysis, no hesitation. Every ounce they can reach, they take now. The excavator surges forward, bucket plunging repeatedly into the glowing hollow and scooping up the richest pay dirt any of them have ever touched. Every haul glitters, not with specks or flakes, but with chunks. Heavy pieces visible even before the water rinses them. The slurry spills out thick with coarse gold that clatters like coins in a jar. Mitch and Tyler work shoulder to shoulder, clearing sediment, sorting, and feeding the machine as fast as Parker can dig. The ground trembles with every pass. The roof groans louder. Then the bucket hits something that makes the entire crew swear. A massive fused clump of gold, solid, heavy, shaped by centuries of pressure. It's the size of a small watermelon, the kind of find miners dream about but rarely ever see in their lifetime. Parker barely gives it a glance before tossing it into the hall. There's no time to admire anything now. Time is running out. The glacier reaches its breaking point. A fissure tears across the dome, stretching from one wall to the other like a zipper ripping open. Their entrance caves inward with a deafening crash. Snow and ice collapse in waves. The chamber is closing. Parker calls for one final bucket. Dylan signals the excavator forward. The bucket plunges into the heart of the hollow one last time and drags out a load so dense with gravel and gold that the hydraulics whine under the weight. Gold spills through the gaps like flowing sand. As the machine backs away, the entrance collapses completely, sealing the chamber behind them. The ancient vault shutters shut once more, this time for good. Back at the plant, cleanup begins quiet and focused. No one knows what the final tally will be, but every tray, every riffle, every cleanup mat floods with coarse gold. Not fine flakes, not typical Klondike dust, heavy pieces, thick flakes, nuggets big enough to bounce instead of slide. When they pull the concentrates for weighing, the numbers jump immediately. 50 million. The digital scale climbs without slowing. 70 million. The tray still isn't empty. The crew stands shoulder to shoulder, silent, watching the meter climb. 90 million. No taper, no stall. Finally, the number settles just below the next marker, $98 million. One cleanup, one pocket. The richest glacial gold trap Parker Schnabel has ever uncovered. Tyler runs the geological analysis twice, just to confirm. The conclusion is unmistakable. This wasn't a normal deposit, not even a rare one. It was a once-in-a-century kettle structure, created by a catastrophic ancient flood, sudden freezing, and a glacier shift that sealed everything away. Pressure then compressed it into a natural vault. The glacier didn't destroy the gold. It protected it, hid it, guarded it for generations. Parker stands over the final tray, staring at coarse gold piled like a dragon's treasure, and finally understands the truth. He didn't just hit good pay. He opened a sealed chapter of Earth's history, a frozen vault untouched by time, a deposit older than the first miner to ever pan this land. For the first time in his career, he knows with absolute certainty, this wasn't luck. Please subscribe to the Timefall channel and don't forget to like.